If you feel like you're stuck on the marketing hamster wheel, I'm going to show you how most coaches over 50 like me get stuck there, and then how you can get back off that hamster wheel. But before I go into that, I'm going to have to provide you a little bit of context. We've all been told we just need to do more. No, wait, not just do more of anything. We need to do more of what works. Well, do more of what works sounds great, but how do we determine what's actually working? Well, here's the normal cycle that most coaches over 50 like me go through to get to finding out what works. First thing is we need to do some market research, the dreaded market research, where we go out and we find a little bit about competitors and white space and what people want and their pains and their problems and what they're asking, and try and get some kind of idea of what the market is like. And then with that market research, we go about defining our target audience and hopefully a primary avatar. Lots of people think that they've defined an avatar when they've actually defined a broad audience, but that's for another video. Next, after we have our audience or avatar, we're going to create a message for them to get them to pay attention to our offer. Now, this is usually done by extracting the pain points and the problems and the questions and all the things that we found in our research and formulating the message around that so that we can send it out there and test it and track it. Because testing and tracking is the way we're going to find patterns. And with these patterns, let's find what works. Okay, well, it doesn't really seem like anything really worked. So it didn't work the way we wanted it to. We need to adjust our messaging. Okay, so we adjust our messaging and then we come back up here and test it some more. And we look for what works, and then we adjust it again, and then we test it some more, and then we're like, well, maybe I just need to create it all over again. Okay, and let's test that and find out what works. And it's just let's adjust it again. Let's what's going on here? It's not doing what I want it to do. Okay, well, maybe I need to redefine my audience, my avatar, or both, or something here, and then try it again and test it and find out what's working. And maybe some of it seems to be working. So now we're going to start trying to do more of what works, but we're caught in the adjustment part, trying to test and test and test. And this is the spiral. This is the hamster wheel of why we're just constantly trying to do more content, and different content, and it just seems like it never stops. The key to getting out of this pattern so that we're not constantly looping back around and going to different levels, just randomly trying stuff, is that we're going to insert right here. This is where we're going to find patterns. Okay? Now you're asking now, how do we find patterns before we create the message and test them? Well, that's a great question. We are going to stop using buckets of information for our avatars, and we're going to start lining up that information into specific thought tracks. Now, before I get too far and overwhelming you on these new terms, thought track is just a specific series of pains and problems and questions that are tied congruently, and we can decipher which ones are closer to pain points, closer to buying, closer to action, and work with those ones first so that we're not testing a bunch of other things that aren't the right message at the right time. Now, this requires that we have a primary avatar so that we can extract out the different types of thoughts that they're having and the different types of people that are secondary avatars and their thought processes at the time, because some people need a little bit more time to get to the buying point than others. All right, let's look at how we're going to get off that hamster wheel. Process is similar. Starts out with the market research. We need that information to move forward. But instead of an audience, we're going to define a primary avatar, meaning we're actually going to forget about some people and only focus on a certain type of person. Think about it like someone going to the amusement park. Some people are going to be more interested in the rides. Other people are going to be more interested in the carnival games. Knowing which type of person they are helps with the marketing. Now we can find all the different thought tracks of that person, because just because they are more interested in the rides doesn't mean they won't go do the carnival games. It's just they're probably going to do more rides and do them before they go do the other stuff. So we want to capture each type of thought process. Not to mention, some people, one day they go to the amusement park, want to go do all the rides, but another day they're not feeling kind up to rides for whatever reason. Their tummy doesn't feel good. They're just not in the mood. They want to go do something else instead. Same person, same amusement park, just different thought processes. So if we identify those patterns, well, then we can create a messaging sequence rather than just a messaging blob. So with a sequence, we have the first thought track, and we can run that and test and track that. But instead of needing to circle back around and recreate anything, we're just going to run the next sequence and test and track that. Here's the only circle that we've got. It's a little tiny hamster wheel, and we don't need to be on it. We can just kind of keep it moving. Bing, bing, bing. The point being is that now we run through all of those so we can find out actually what does work more at that time, because it's going to change, and do some more of that. We can come back up here and start defining secondary avatars. Once we know what is working more and we're not running all these tests any longer on the sequence because we've finished the sequence, we know which one of these sequences work more than the others and which ones we're going to keep working with and which ones we're not. So then we can go up and define a secondary avatar with their thought patterns. All right, now that we've talked about all these thought tracks and primary and secondary avatars and all those sorts of things, how the heck do we do that? Well, that's the next video I'm going to make. Just click right here and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified as soon as it comes out.